This is Asaki Online. Welcome to Agriculture on Site, a program that looks at farming issues as well as interrogating trends in food production, as well as speaking to stakeholders and movers and shakers in the agricultural sector. My guest this week is the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Farmers Union, Mr. Paul Zakariya, who is going to be discussing with us the challenges and opportunities of farming in Zimbabwe. Mr. Zakariya, what a pleasure to really have you on my program.
Thank you very much.
You are here, ZFU is holding its 84th annual Congress here, actually in Bulawayo. Tell us more about the Congress. What's all about? Why the Congress here?
Well, the 84th annual Congress of the Zimbabwe Farmers Union is being held in Bulawayo this time around. Normally, we hold our congresses in Gweru, which is more central. But in May this year, we lost our president, retired Major Abdul Credit Nyati. We lost him on the 17th of May, and the whole council agreed that we would then hold this Congress in the region in honor of the late president. The theme of our Congress is family farming and the food security nexus. Basically, what we are talking about is the nexus between family farming and food security. These two are inseparable. You can't detach one from the other. Otherwise, serious consequences will be, felt and experienced. To begin with, if our farmers are not viable, it means they cannot look after themselves. So food security at the household level is compromised. But if they cannot perform commercially to end up selling to grain, GMB, and many other buyers, the situation becomes very untenable, because then it means the nation is not secure food-wise. What does that also mean? The nation will have to use the meager resources that it has to then import food, which otherwise could have been produced by our farmers. So when we're importing food, we are actually exporting foreign currency, and that's not a very good thing to do, especially if and when we can produce for ourselves. So this theme is looking at the challenges that our farmers face, recognizing that 95%, if not more, of the agricultural lands in the country, they are actually in the hands of families. So these are family businesses. So it comes closer home when you are talking about viability, when you're talking about profitability. These are businesses owned by families. And each family is thriving purely because the policy environment is good. Other ingredients that go into production, they have been made available, your inputs, you have the right type of varieties, and you have your fertilizers in place, you have the production techniques in place, and you have a policy environment that supports the family farming, and also you have markets that are performing. If your markets don't perform, eventually you are not profitable either. So we are looking at all the things that militate against successful family farming, so that we achieve the goal of household food security as well as national food security.
Before maybe I would ask you to really drill down on why actually this theme. I'm can let us unpack. People has used the word farmers and family farm. What are we really talking about when you talk about family farmers? Tell me more about this.
So you see that when we're talking about family farming, we are going to talk also about land holding. We are going to talk about the sizes of the farmers. And we're going to talk about their partnerships amongst themselves with other stakeholders, and also their aspirations going forward, because farming is an ongoing, kind of enterprise. You stop farming today, there is somebody who will go hungry somewhere. So you have your smallholder farmers. These are mostly in the communal areas with 2, 3 acres, 1 hectare. And we know that some communal areas go up to even 3, 5 hectares. Then you have your small-scale commercial, and this is largely in your purchase areas. We used to call them purchase areas back then, which were the buffers between communal and large-scale commercial farms. Then you have your A1 recently introduced, your A2, and your large-scale commercial farmers. But all these farmlands, they are in the hands of families. So these are family businesses that we are talking about. And it becomes very critical for us to then say, how do we ensure that these enterprises, they are sustainable, but also there is continuity? So a lot of other processes come in play. Inheritance issues, how do you resolve them? Finance, access to markets, improved varieties, technologies that are appropriate for all these categories of producers that we're talking about. So it's a lot of things that go into their viability and their profitability.
We take for granted really where our food comes from, and farming is not a walk in the park. What kind of challenges now would you say actually farmers are facing in Zimbabwe right now in actually producing the food for us?
I would start off with the access to land, for instance. So one could be a very good farmer and they have potential to upscale, but they do not have the resource which is inelastic, the land itself. Yet you would see that there are vast swaths of lands that are not being utilized. So there has to be some kind of rationale in as far as access to land is concerned. There has to be that voice of reason which says every agricultural land must be productive, must be put into the hands of those who can use it and use it sustainably. Whatever arrangement, whatever instrument that may be used to access the land, it doesn't matter. What is important at the end of the day is, has the land been used? And have we received what the value that we all are interested in or from the land? So the land, access to land is indeed a very big issue. You are looking also at women requirements, the youth requirements. These are very interesting, particularly the young people, a very interesting demographic. They are coming in their numbers. And the land, most of the land is held in the hands of the elderly. And the inheritance issues that I mentioned earlier on, mostly these are never handled properly. So you will see that we have those that are in their prime years and yet skilled also in agriculture, but have literally no access to land. So we need to come in with policies that deliberately favor our young people so that we make that average year of age of those that are in agriculture much, much lower, because it speaks into the future. Then you are looking at finance. Finance is a huge problem. The type of money that we have for agriculture in this country is really not the appropriate type. It's short-term, coming from depositors' funds, and it's like microfinance type of financing, which is very expensive, very short tenors, and you can't do much. Yet in agriculture, you require short-term financing, medium-term to finance your tractors and so on. But you also need long-term finances for infrastructure development. So largely in our farmlands, it has been very, very difficult. And more so in the communal areas. Back in the years, we used to have the original AFC, Agricultural Finance Corporation, which had a window for smallholder farmers. They would use their assets, Scotch cars, bicycles, whatever it was, on the homestead to secure a loan. And the repayment rate then was not disappointing at all. With more training and with more support, our farmers, even in the communal areas, can actually produce. Did you know that more than 80% of the grain that ended up going to the silos, GMB silos, was actually coming from the smallholder communities and from the communal areas, which is why your silos are actually located in the rural areas and not so much in the farmlands. So it is very important for us to be looking at this. And yet, that is exactly where food security matters, particularly our smallholder farmers. If they are food secure, they are not a bother to anyone, and government doesn't have to run around to take care of them in terms of food aid and so on. So it's a number of things. Environmentally, there is another big challenge that is being presented. Our mining and agriculture, that relationship is not where it is supposed to be. I think there is a free rein when it comes to mining. And anybody who has a pick or whatever equipment, they can go anywhere as long as they suspect that there is a particular mineral there. So they are digging up holes everywhere. And these holes come rains, they form, gullies. And these gullies, they are now gullies because the soil has gone. Where did the soil go? Lower levels, into the water bodies and river siltation. What it means is your animals no longer have water to drink, even domestic supplies. You need water for many things, for domestic purposes, and your rivers have dried up. And we are seeing also a lot of trees are being cut even by miners themselves because they want to clear the land so that they see what they are doing. And this is promoting serious land degradation. And we want to believe that this can be done orderly. Mining can be done orderly. Mining can be organized. It can be formalized. And small-scale miners can actually partner, established mining outfits and operate as companies with environmental certificates to say this is a good operation, let it continue. Why are we doing that? Because we insist as a union that there has to be a relationship between mining and agriculture. These two must coexist. One feeds into the other as much as the other feeds into the other. These two are one. So basically, we are having serious challenges in that regard. I would mention issues to do with inputs, fake seed going out there. I would mention a lot of things that are happening where farmers are being shortchanged on the markets and many other things.
Given that scenario, that of all these challenges that militate, against farmers actually doing what they know best, which is farming. What is the union doing in terms of helping farmers actually overcome, some of these challenges that you outlined?
Well, as a union, we exist primarily to lobby and advocate for conducive environments where farmers can thrive. And in our business, lobbying and advocacy, we actually do position papers, which we share with the authorities. We meet with the Minister of Agriculture on purely agricultural matters every week, every Thursday, without fail. We meet with the minister and we update him on a weekly basis on the issues that are happening on the land. And we raise these challenges. And the good thing about the Minister of Agriculture is very, versatile, he's agile when he's in his approach. He is quick to then create platforms that bring together the various stakeholders to then say, look into this. Many working groups have been formed, and which working groups have actually produced some very good results. in as far as trying to address these issues is concerned. But as a union, we will keep raising these issues because advocacy is what we do. So we will raise these issues so that they are not forgotten. So that is one of the things that we do. And we educate our farmers also on the approaches that they may take to help lessen the impact of the negative occurrences of all these vices that we discussed earlier. So our farmers must be educated. One, you may adapt or you may mitigate. So you need to choose when to adapt and when to mitigate. And where you know you cannot do anything about it, you change your approaches, you adapt. But where you can mitigate, you put in measures to make sure that you are not eroded and that you continue to be viable. So as a union, we engage and we continue to engage.
Recently, government has actually made an announcement that it is actually going to be looking at allocating permits to farmers actually and people who benefited from the land reform in terms of actually giving them tenure of the land. Do you see this as a move that could actually boost investment in agriculture? And also given that farmers now have a title, they could actually get financing, for their operations.
Well, absolutely. We believe that, you see, land, after the land reform program and with all the uncertainties, land had lost value. You couldn't borrow against any farmland. So land had literally lost value. Even if you had a title deed, there was a lot of uncertainty around farmlands. So with your title deed, still you couldn't borrow. But now there are aspects that have been introduced. For instance, the transferability of the farmlands. And that guarantees also bankability. But it will depend also on the other stakeholders, Bankers Association and all the other financial institutions coming on board. Because if they are not agreeable, then the policy announcement will not yield results. So we need all players to come onto the table and say, yes, our concerns have been addressed. And to answer your question directly, if this happens, it simply means that floodgates of finance have been opened to flow towards the farmlands because we didn't have finance that was of a medium to long-term nature. We only had, you see, farming is not like when you are doing order financing, you know who needs what and you go and buy it within 2 weeks, deal closed. So this is the nature of financial parcels that are available and which are code-named agriculture. And that's not finance for agriculture. So we see that finances will begin to flow, but what it also means is that with immediate effect, just the transferability of land guarantees bankability, and with immediate effect, land has value. So now you can borrow against a piece of land. And this happens just like that because you have brought in the issues of trust, confidence, and we need to kick in the land administration issues somewhere in between so that the land is not, policy is not abused because there are tendencies for such things to happen. So yes, I totally agree with you. This is a game changer in as far as finance, accessing agricultural finance is concerned.
And how do you, as union, are you going to bring like the bankers to the table? Given that the bankers, they are very wary of risk. That way they say farmers do not have any collateral, and also there could be an issue that government still needs to sort out. The previous issue of deeds that other farmers had, and even the previous farmers could also have the issue of the borrowings that they took from the banks that they have not paid back. How are you actually engaging?
Yes, financial institutions have always engaged. I mean, last week actually we had a huge meeting with financial institutions looking into this coming season. So we talk to them because we do believe that without external finances, family farms and family farmers necessarily will suffer unnecessarily as well. So we engage with them also around this policy. A lot of consultations have been done where Land Commission, the Department of Lands in the Ministry of Lands and Agriculture, the Attorney General's office, development partners, and farmer unions. We're coming together to look at the land tenure systems in the country, and also to look specifically at the 99-year lease and various other instruments that are availing or access, that are bringing access to farmlands, to farmers. So we do engage quite often, and bankers coming to those meetings with their legal departments. We've been up and down on the 99-year lease. At some point we had agreed that this was a bankable document, and then they came back and said, look, there are so many gaps in here, so the risks associated with lending and so on. So this is why I'm saying we only hope that this time around, all their issues have been taken care of, and they will play ball and come to the table. So as a union, we will engage and we will not tire. That is our mandate.
And then just talk to me then also about now, given this scenario, how is actually your union, what is your union doing right now to actually help farmers at this moment in time really prepare for the farming season, given that, yes, farmers, finance is one thing, but there are other inputs that they actually need.
So coming out of the 2023-2024 agricultural season, which was a very bad one, where we had a drought. We are still in a drought as we speak, and hoping for the early rains, October going forward. There is a lot of excitement, I would say, amongst our farmers with the prediction of a 2024-2025 season that is normal to above normal rainfall. But then, with such a prediction, you will need very good preparations to be, on the ground. We have educated our farmers on the prospects for the season. We have sent through our systems, we have sent information to all our farmers, and they are on the lookout for any eventuality of the rains coming, and then how do they protect themselves, and how do they use the moisture that we know is coming in abundance. In terms of inputs, there is knowledge that is coming through to be able to identify, because there is a lot that is happening, fake seed that is being sold and so on. Just recently we had reports around the Filabusi area. One may need to confirm that later. But there was a whole truckload of maize seed, which was something like 1.5 tons coming through to the region. And all of it was fake seed. So awareness has to be raised, because you can imagine the hectares that you would establish with 1.5 tons of seed. So if one lays their hand on that fake seed, it fails to perform, and yet we are promised to be going to have a very good season, normal to above normal rainfall, then there is no witchcraft that goes beyond that. Now, it's also soil health issues that we are talking about. Most of our farmlands, in layman's terms, would say the soils are tired. You see, we have been producing mining nutrients year after year and not even observing proper agricultural practices of rotation and many other things. So you see that these soils are no longer giving as much as they used to give. And yet, our input suppliers, they can only think of, if your yield is low, they can only think of increase your fertilizers, put more and more fertilizers. The soils are now very acidic. and we need to reclaim the soils. So soil health will be the basis of our agricultural revolution in the country. We need to fix the pH. We need to fix the nutrients. And our soil must have enough food for whatever crop that we are going to plant. It doesn't matter where we are, whatever agroecological region, we need to look at our soils. So soil testing, soil analysis, and going beyond, even water analysis, because like the mining issues that I spoke to earlier on, you will see that some of the water is no longer that type of water that will help us bring any healthy crop, not even mentioning livestock. So soil health, we are going out with our gangs. There is a campaign that we have just ended where we were talking about liming during our July, August, September period. Many of our smallholder farmers hadn't done that to fix the pH. So liming was promoted out there. So we expect that this will pick momentum going into the next season. After the next winter, we would want every farmland to be limed. The whole land should look white with lime for a purpose, so that our fertilizers and other ingredients that we are bringing may be put to good use. So it is very important. It's many things that we had. Financial literacy, for instance, farming as a business. Our farmers need to have a good relationship with money. Otherwise, a loan could be taken and mistaken for profits. So people borrow and then buy cars and never invest in the land to pay back those loans. So those relationships with the banks, they are very, very important. So we do a lot of capacity building. We pass out a lot of information, weekly market guides. Every Friday afternoon, the Zimbabwe Farmers Union sends to its members a weekly market guide, which shows what product is required, where, for how much, what volumes, and the payment terms, and so on, to make the lives of our farmers easy. And we do these market linkages as well. There is a lot that we do in terms of accessing inputs on discounts. So with the production of a ZFU membership card, a farmer can actually walk into certain shops and enjoy discounts. So these are the things that we are bringing to our farmers so that they are more prepared for this season. And advocacy going beyond the prices of inputs. We have seen that prices of inputs have skyrocketed even in US dollars. A lot of profiteering is happening out there. And interestingly, the minister also spoke about the price of fertilizer. If all our stocks are coming through South Africa going into the region, and obviously the fertilizer that lands in Zambia may have passed through Zimbabwe, how come the Zambian fertilizer is a lot cheaper than the Zimbabwean? What is it that we are doing that confuses economics to such an extent? It doesn't make sense. So we are engaging private sector, even at this Congress. There is a lot, actually, there is a thematic session on it right now, where they are talking about how we can bring sanity in the marketplace so that we lower production costs as farmers improve their yields, and that is where their money is.
Talk to me about agriculture is very cost intensive, or what is really like the funding gap now for actually agriculture maybe this season, and what are you doing to actually ensure that this gap could actually be filled?
Yeah, from a very practical point of view, I'll show you something that many people may not have noticed. Our farmers are relying more on established schemes. So if you are in an A1 or A2, there is the NIAPS, which is your CBZ Agro Yield, your AFC, and hopefully NMB comes on board. So if you are a communal type of farmer, this is your Fumvudza in Twasa. Now, I mentioned earlier that some of the people that are in farmers, that are in the communal areas, may have been known in the past to be great farmers, hurudza, and they were doing 3 to 5 hectares in the communal areas. But because there is this funding gap, they are now forced to do the 4 plots of Pfumvudza. All right? So they have abandoned 3, 4 hectares to concentrate on the Pfumvudza because of lack of funding. So we have actually knocked back a lot of good potential, back to small, very smallholder type of farmers. And if you walk into the communal areas during this period, September, October, November, December, January, you will see the evidence. There are so many farms that are lying fallow. Nothing is happening there. And yet, those farms were very productive in the communal areas. The picture gets even brighter and clearer when you now go into your A1 and A2. You will see that there used to be a farmer who was doing 600 hectares of cereals. But whoever has taken over that farm, they are producing not even a third of what the previous owner was doing. What is happening? It is that financial gap. So putting figures to that would require a lot of analysis. But I can tell you, going back to my earlier response, the type of money that we have, which is purported to be for agriculture, is not the right type of money. No one in their senses would borrow short-term finance to finance medium-term to long-term, purposes. So it's still, the jury is still out there to try and say, let's balance things off. The gap is huge, I would confirm.
Given that scenario, would you then say ZFU as a union, really, and representing you as being the voice of the farmers, would you say then farmers are actually being listened to as far as, by policymakers in terms of them being prioritized in terms of boosting investment in farming or not? Because food is so critical, it's an important sector, but yet farmers are failing to actually produce to their potential because of a myriad of these challenges.
Yes, it's a very interesting question, because when you say who is the farmer in this country, you will see that most of the policymakers do own farms. They are in the A2, they are large scale, and so on. So they are the farmers. And they know what is good for agriculture and what is good for the farmer, because they would enjoy that. If given the chance, they would definitely enjoy that. So in that regard, we have already won, because there is the policymakers, being farmers themselves, they are sympathetic to the issues of the farmers. But there is a thing called sustainability. The approaches that we have taken, the processes that we have engaged, and the parcels that have been availed for agriculture. Big question is, are they sustainable? Can we do this for the longest time? No. You cannot. Obviously, government has come in when the banks chickened out in terms of financing agriculture. Government came in to fill in the gap. And this is why you see all these government schemes supporting agriculture. But we know that in the long run, there is definitely going to be fatigue somewhere, because all these schemes are supported by public funds. And being supported by public funds is a heavy tax burden on the citizens. So sustainability, this is where it kicks in. And I'm sure at some point there's going to be a cutoff. Now, before that happens, we now need to say who amongst the stakeholders has a role to play. If it is the banks, if it is the Ministry of Finance, the Reserve Bank, if it is the Ministry of Lands itself, the private sector, What other models can we bring in, kick in to ensure that we establish a sustainable agricultural financing systems, so that our farmer, this thing must operate like, clockwise, like clockwork. It has to happen. So your off-takers playing their part, your input suppliers playing their part, guarantees put in there, banks also supporting, and farmers trusting these institutions that my money, once I deliver my crop, my produce, I'm paid in time, on time, and I'm paid in full. All those things need to kick in. So our contracting arrangements must work, they must kick in. But our markets at the same time, they must perform. So we need some models that are not what we have right now. We could be enjoying that. It is good for the moment, but definitely not sustainable. But going forward, we need to come up with models that speak into the future, continuity, and so on and so forth.
Interesting. You represent farmers at FU. Tell us what are the benefits really of farmers organizing and you representing farmers. What is the benefit really of farmers belonging to ZFU?
Organized farming is indeed the backbone of agricultural development. Our agricultural revolution has to be anchored on organized engagement, speaking with one voice. As individuals, we can go so far, but with collective ideas and coming together to champion a cause, we can actually change the whole scenario, the whole setup of things. So it is important that we pull our voices together. And we need to approach agriculture from a united front. Though we are producing different commodities in different agroecological regions, we still are doing basically the same thing. We are fighting for just one goal, to ensure that we are food secure as families, but we are also food secure as a nation. So this is the real reason why ZFU exists. Now, being a member of the Zimbabwe Farmers Union is a huge opportunity for the generality of our producers out there. I spoke earlier on about, weekly market guides. You get information on time, real time. You get, that is on markets. We are also working together with MSD to provide location-specific weather information. And this is going to help farmers to make decisions going forward on their farms. And this is critical, especially when you look at climate change issues and the serious vices that come with climate change. So we need to be more prepared, to be resilient, and also to be equipped so that we know what type of crops we are going to grow, what varieties rather even we are going to grow, and the scale. So it is very important. So we also provide a lot of capacity building for our members. I mentioned earlier on relationships with financial institutions. We do the bank proposals, we do crops and livestock budgets on behalf of our farmers, and we do fact sheets on high-value commodities, which of course go to our members, mostly for free because they are our members. So those that are not our members, if they are to access that information, obviously it's through some hook and crook, but otherwise this comes straight as a package to a member of the Zimbabwe Farmers Union. The market linkages that we spoke about earlier, those are some of the things that our farmers are really looking for. Technical skills on agriculture. We have sent quite a number of our farmers to look at how things are being done elsewhere in the country, in the region, and even abroad. We had a whole team of dairy farmers going out to the Netherlands to look at the state-of-the-art, operations in the Netherlands. They are known in the Netherlands, in the Nordic countries. Netherlands is known for producing high volumes of good quality milk and processing as well, cheeses and yogurts and many other things. So our farmers, they have that. It is a huge opportunity that they have. And our farmers also do access a lot of information with regards the policies, right? So we have an economics department within our organization. With the announcement of any policy, monetary policy, fiscal statement, statutory instruments that are thrown around, our economics department sits down, they analyze all that information, those policies, and then they come up with a position. Which position is agreed to by the union and then communicated to all our members so that they are prepared in as far as the positions they will need to take. You can imagine the ZIG lost value just a week or so ago. And our farmers had to be prepared. Of course, it happened all of a sudden, and real value was lost. But with lobbying, with advocacy, we are bringing this to the attention of the authorities. But our farmers are now informed in terms of what else they can do, even under such circumstances. Equipment, accessing equipment. This is also one of the things. Very soon we are going to be launching a machinery ring. We are saying a farmer, farmers, particularly in the smallholder areas, you do not need to own the tractor, but you can lease it. So we have a set of machines put in a locality, accessed by our members. Non-members can also access, but at a fee that is higher. So this is why, in fact, it's an incentive to say, guy, be organized, join the rest. So they will use the plows, the reapers, even the tractors themselves, the combine harvesters and everything, bringing them back to the hub. So those fees will help now for repairs and maintenance and so on. So the equipment is owned by our farmers right there.
And just lastly, how many members do you actually have, a few that you represent?
Our database is of active members is currently standing at upwards of 365,000. But we go beyond that, because those that may have been members in the past, we still maintain the database. The 365,000 are those that are active. But beyond that, it's actually a lot more. We go beyond 1.8 million.
And what major success have you actually achieved really in terms of you lobbying for the farmers' interest that you could actually mention?
Well, I think in the area of producer prices, the union has been very vocal, and we have also scored some huge successes in there. Not all of them, but we know that the majority of the negotiations have produced very good results. And we have also lobbied on behalf of our farmers to access equipment. And this is what one huge success that we can talk about right now. We have MOUs with private companies that supply equipment and inputs in agriculture. On discounts. So it's a huge seller for people to be part of the organization because they can access discounts throughout the country. And it is working very, very well. The successes are huge. Our young people, in terms of leadership, training, the young farmers, young agripreneurs, they're actually bringing in a lot of value to the union as well as to other young people. And we have at a global level, because we are a member of the World Farmer Organization, we have what we call the Gymnasium. And this is a leadership development program for young people, young farmers. And this has been customized at the national level. And we are extending this to any young farmer that is interested. At the regional level, we also have another leadership capacity development program run by our regional body called the Southern African Confederation of Agricultural Unions. And we have also customized the content so that we run a similar type program for our young farmers in country. So all the agricultural colleges, our universities, and those youths that are in the communities, they're actually engaging. Just 3 weeks ago, we had the ZFU 11th ZFU Youth Summit, Agripreneurship Summit, which was bringing all these young people with all sorts of innovations from all over the country. And they were showcasing, what they are doing, and it became quite inspirational for many other young people to join in.
There you are. It pays to actually become a farmer. The future of food is actually in farming. My guest today was actually Mr. Paul Zakariya, the Secretary General of Zimbabwe Farmers Union, who actually was unpacking, not only the benefits of being in ZFU, but also on the state of farming in Zimbabwe right now. This is Sake Online. Join us again in our next episode where we actually discuss farming issues and innovations.